Well, hello. I want to talk to you today about the Kaweco Dia. Now, when I say Kaweco Dia, we're going another vintage pen. This is a 1930s model. Apparently there weren't a lot of them produced. I was hoping I could find more research that could tell me more exactly about it. But anyway, it's a Kaweco Dia. It is, the model number on it is 803/07. It is a 14 karat gold nib with an oblique cut on it, so that's going to be interesting. I wouldn't go as far as call it wet noodle, but pretty darn close. Very flexy. And by the way, Kaweco, another piston filler, so why can't you do them now? Now, just for comparison purposes, I do happen to own a modern Kaweco Dia 2, and you'll see when I do the pen sizes. This is one of the pens I'm actually going to compare it to. It is, oh boy, 3/4 of an inch shorter than its more modern version, much lighter. But you'll see there's a lot of similar design cues. In fact, I'm planning a rodeo where I talk about it. The Kaweco Dia, this 1930s model, has a lot more in common, in size anyway, with the Kaweco Sport. Okay, so let's talk about the Kaweco Dia. First of all, I really like the plain gold trim. This is a pen that has a cork piston in it, but the cork, of course, since the 1930s shrinks, so it's been replaced with silicone, which is fine with me. It's a very stiff piston knob, but interestingly, the piston knob is hidden under a blind cap. Now, where have I seen that design before? Why, on the Noodler's Conrad, where Noodler's Conrad claims to have been inspired by German pens. Well, there it is. There's one of the inspirations, possibly. So Kaweco Dia is quickly turned into one of my favorite pens. The new one is too, but I like this one. It's small, it's plain, but you get spectacular writing out of it. Has a green ink window, very small emblem on the end. You know, the furniture on it, not the furniture, wow, the decorations on it are pretty plain. 2 little gold rings there, although I don't think they're gold. And the nib, you'll see in the close-up, is kind of a plain version of what they are now. And I'm pretty sure it's an ebonite feed. I really like writing with this pen. I'm also really nervous taking it out of the house, but I really like writing with it. I try not to flex it too much, but the oblique is kind of fun. It adds line variation in a direction you don't usually expect. It's fun. Would I buy it again? Absolutely, although they don't make them anymore, so, you know, if you've got one, hold on to it. You also see on this blind cap, there's a little knurled design, which has been carried over to both ends on the modern version. It is just, this is a nice pocket pen in this kind of pocket or your pants pocket, although I would never put it in my pants pocket. It is going to write today, even though I have not written with it in about a week, just to prove my point. I just don't know what to say. It does everything I could ask for. And of course the oblique is just awesome. I've never written with an oblique italic nib before. I have not totally been brave enough to take it apart for disassembling, but I think it comes apart just like the Noodler's Conrad. Now let's do a quick size comparison. Ooh, wow, look at how dark it got in here all of a sudden. Well, as you can tell, I don't have auto exposure when I run video with this camera because it's old enough that they didn't have that yet. Spectacular camera, but sorry. As far as length, I'd say 1 1/4 inches shorter than Noodler's Conrad capped. Uncapped, which I do not write with this Kaweco with it uncapped. Uncapped, about 1 inch shorter than the Conrad. And when you see what you can see in the photograph, that is hard to see on the video, is just how tiny the Kaweco nib is compared to the Noodler's. And then, of course, posted, probably 1/2 inch shorter than the Kaweco. So I'm just going to suggest there are a lot of nice and interesting vintage fountain pens out there, and for years I avoided them because of a bad experience. But now there's internet, and you can learn a lot more and maybe actually fix a pen that you might not have known how to fix. So I would encourage you, if And you see the lights back again. I would encourage you, if you live in an area where you can get hold of vintage pens at a decent price, go for it. If not, there are some retailers online that'll sell them, and if you don't want to do any work, this is a pen I bought that I didn't want to do work on. Uber Pens retails vintage fountain pens. So thank you for watching, and now we'll turn our attention to a writing sample. I'm going to do my writing sample with the Kaweco Dia. It's 80307. This is a 1930s pen, and really, really nice writer. And I've never used an oblique nib before. And what the oblique does, when you cut it oblique, that causes you to get your widest when you write your angular, when your angular strokes are going to be the thickest. Now, add to that, of course, that this pen has some line variation because it flexes. So you got an interesting pen. So I'm using Sailor Epinard ink, which is a discontinued ink, but one of my favorites. Sailor, take note. Wrote the word flex here like I always do, whether it's a flex pen or not, just because I like the chance to show the line variation. And you can see sort of in my little swirlies here, but really here, my horizontals, yeah, they're a little, or no, those are vertical lines. My vertical lines are a little thicker, my horizontal lines are thin, but check this out. Angle, thick, other angle, thin. And that comes down to this oblique nib. So let's see it in practice. I'm going to write the word flex twice. I'm going to write it once without any pressure. By the way, when I did my review a few minutes ago, I said it's going to have no trouble starting, and it didn't. But by the time I got to the W, it was out of ink, because guess who's been using this pen a lot? So I've had, I don't know how many fills on this pen. But anyway, the word flex, no pressure. You can definitely see some line variation in there. Do some swirls or something. And look where the wider parts are. Now, with a little bit of pressure, not too much, 1930s pen. This is a lot older than me, and if I break it, that's it. Won't be getting another one. But you always flex in your downstrokes and all that. This lays down a nice amount of ink. I think it looks good with this. Sailor Epinard has a dark green and then a really dark green shading. I've always really liked that, and I like the smell of Sailor inks, which is kind of weird, I know. And I'm going to write, I'll tell you what parts I write with pressure and what parts I write without pressure after I write this. Alright, so I wrote this no pressure, no pressure. These two I wrote using normal amounts of pressure, and this one I went full bore and flexed. But like I said, pen from the 1930s, I'm gentle with it. I could probably push it further than I did, but I will not. Darn it, you couldn't see a word of that. I just realized that. This is the 1930s model. This is the 2016 model. This, I'm going to slip in between them, Kaweco Sport, and a Noodler's Conrad, which you cannot see, so I have to move up again. There we go. So just to give you a little bit of quick size comparison, but like I said, I'll have some photographs earlier in the video. And I apologize for not noticing that I signed the signature half off the screen. I did not realize I was doing that because I had my quote up and was not paying attention to the preview. But anyway, I hope this was useful. I apologize that it ran a little bit long. I'm afraid when I review some of these vintage pens, that's just what's going to happen because I like them. But anyway, thank you for watching. We'll see you later.